So I've been playing some older Steam games recently, and one of the games I decided to play again was FarCry 4. And damn, FarCry 4 was an awesome game. I forgot how fun it was. It was the fourth installment in Ubisoft's Far Cry series, and a lot of people would have called it the last classic Far Cry game. It had that awesome original formula of climbing towers, doing takedowns, and trying to fuck up the plans of some complete psychopath. Number 4 was the second game in the series I played, and it was always my personal favourite, and I don't know, I just felt it was underrated for what it was. I mean, it did have some big shoes to fill coming out right after the amazing Far Cry 3 of course, but I think it did its job pretty well. And over the last few weeks while replaying Far Cry 4, I thought I would make a quick video going into some of the main positives of this game, and why I still think it's worth spending your time and money on in 2024. Alright, so one of the main positives in Far Cry 4 is obviously its big fuck off map, because it still looks great. I mean, look at this shit, it's crazy to think that this game is nearly 10 years old now. It honestly looks like a game that could have come out this year at times. Ubisoft obviously took their time while making this game look the way it does, and I definitely think they stepped it up a notch from Far Cry 3. The graphics and art styles look really sick in my opinion, and the map in general really makes 4 stand out against the other games in the series. And not only does the world look good, but it feels really alive too. There's always lots of things going on in Far Cry 4, no matter where you are on the map, unlike in some much newer games where the world just feels completely empty and lifeless. While travelling in Far Cry 4 you can come across lots of interesting things, such as gunfights, royal cargo, karma events and other stuff. These are random events and they feel like they would be an everyday occurrence when you're in the middle of a country that's being run by this fucking guy. These events aren't annoying either, they don't force you to sit through them. If you don't want to get involved, you can just go on your merry way, right past them. And no, I know it's not like random things happening around the map is some revolutionary thing that no one has ever heard of before, but hey, it's still pretty dope for a nearly 10-year-old game, and these features definitely made the large map feel more animated. And even though the map is really big and full of danger in this game, it's also not hard to navigate if you don't want it to be. There are plenty of cool vehicles to help you get to your destination easily and with more style, such as cars, bikes, the iconic wingsuit, helicopters, hang gliders, hovercrafts, those tuk-tuk things, and fucking elephants. I mean, come on, riding an elephant, that doesn't sound pretty gangster to you? I'm not gonna go too crazy on the combat and gameplay mechanics in this video, because there's other things I want to talk about a little bit more, but the overall feel of it in Far Cry 4 is good. It was refreshing coming back to a game where the gameplay is just way more simple. The gunfights and takedowns feel really smooth, and the outposts and bell tower fights in this game don't get boring. The takedowns are probably the coolest part of the combat, just like in most other Far Cry games, and there's a heap of them you can do, such as chain takedowns, death from above, and knife throws. The game has a skill tree which over time lets you unlock these along with other things. All of these takedowns are obviously silent too, so they are really useful if you're doing an outpost and you're trying to be stealthy. And speaking about the stealth, some people don't really like it that much, because it's way easier to alert enemies compared to Far Cry 3 for example, but I actually like it because it just feels more realistic and it sort of makes it more fun to play in a way. And even if it is quick, like half the time I'm standing in plain sight and the enemies still can't fucking see me anyway, so I don't know what the deal is there, to be honest with you. There's also a good variety of primary and secondary weapons available for you to unlock and purchase, each one being pretty customizable with different attachments and paint jobs. I fuck with the gold on my AK personally, if you couldn't tell. In terms of enemies, Far Cry 4 has a heap of different types. Some have bow and arrows, whereas others are fully kitted out with miniguns and heavy armor, which makes the combat more interesting. And so overall, yeah, the gameplay side of things I think is great as well, and I don't think anyone would complain about it too much if they were playing the game for the first time right now. Now the storyline. Far Cry 4 puts you into the shoes of a young guy named AJ Gale. He has travelled to Karat, which is a country based in the Himalayas. AJ travelled here to spread the ashes of his mother Ishwari Gale. Of course, soon after arriving, he is thrown into an intense situation when the country's ruler, Pagan Min, learns of his arrival. AJ soon discovers there is a war going on between Pagan Min's royal army and a group of freedom fighters known as the Golden Path. The Golden Path was founded by AJ's father Mohan, and the game almost sees you follow in his footsteps and aiding the Golden Path to free Karat from Pagan Min's reign. Overall, I did enjoy the story. It wasn't perfect, but most of it was really enjoyable. I think it flowed well, and everything you were tasked with doing in the game seemed to make sense, and it was related to the main story. As you progress through the story, AJ meets lots of new people and enemies that start new quest lines. My favourite was always the Willis Huntley CIA missions, which I'll talk more about later. As you complete more and more campaign missions, you sort of start heading north towards Pagan's fortress. It felt really cool progressing into the North Karat part of the map, and it kept the game interesting by changing up the environment a bit and making the player feel rewarded. One slightly negative thing that I thought I had to include here was that, from what I've read anyway, everyone seems to hate Sabal and Amida. And I do tend to agree with that. They were pretty dry for main characters and they didn't really have much of an aura about them. The game makes you pick between the two of them a lot in the main story, which was a cool feature, but sometimes they would both have some pretty questionable ideas. Pagan Min, on the other hand, was a fucking awesome character. He was by far the most animated out of all of them, and every time he was on screen it made the cutscenes really engaging. My only real complaint about the story honestly is that we didn't get to see more of him, because just like Vars in Far Cry 3, he wasn't actually involved as much as we would have liked. And now I also just want to go over a couple parts of the game that stood out to me quite a lot when I was replaying it. Both of these things I think were pretty unique and made for some of the funnest activities in the entire game. I always really liked the hunting quests in these older Far Cry games, and Far Cry 4 did these really well with the Karat Fashion Week quests. These quests are accessible by speaking with Mumu Chiffon, who is a character you meet in the game. He tells AJ about the up and coming Karat Fashion Week and sends you out to kill a variety of rare animals. These animals can be found and hunted at various points around the map, and to name some of these animals, we've got stuff like the Sky Tiger, Demon Fish, the Tenzin, which is a creature called a D-hole apparently, the Mad Devil, and the Ghost Bear. These missions were really fun. I mean, who doesn't want to hunt down a fucking Sky Tiger? I mean, look at the thing. It was cool how each different animal you would hunt in the missions had a different story and a unique way of tracking it down and skinning it. For example, when you're hunting the Demon Fish, which is one of the first quests you'll unlock, you are tasked with flying along a river in a helicopter while shooting a grenade launcher into the water to kill it. Now that's fucking sick. You were also rewarded pretty well at the end of these too, so yeah, if you actually are planning on playing this game anytime soon, I would definitely recommend you play all of these quests. And next is the Willis Huntley missions. These undercover agent style missions were always good. Huntley is meant to be an undercover operative for the CIA. If you played Far Cry 3 or 5, you might remember him, as he featured in both of these as well. It was very briefly in 5, but still. In Far Cry 4 he turns up in Karat and tasks AJ with doing various things in exchange for information on his parents. Each of these missions was really enjoyable and sort of switched up the vibe a lot from the regular campaign missions. The first mission you will undergo with him involves pretty much taking down an airport and is where we get this dope cutscene from. Need I say more? And so overall, yeah, this game was sick, man. That classic Far Cry formula paired with great visuals and a good selection of unique things to do make it a great game for anyone to revisit in 2024. I really enjoyed playing it again and it makes me want to replay some other older games as well. So I hope I managed to break down some of the best parts of the game in this video. And lastly, if you did make it this far, thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and maybe I'll see you in the next one.